Welcome back to the channel. DLT is going to dominate. XRP is in the door. If you're listening to what the Fed, I have a few documents up here. If you're listening to what the Fed is saying, you're reading those documents, you're listening to what the IMF, the BIS, they're all saying the same thing within the last 5 months. 5 months, folks. Listen. So what are they all saying? That DLT is going to run wholesale interbank payments. They have so many problems. It just makes perfect sense. But that's what they're saying. You can read their documents. Now, let's go to the Fed, right? We've been on the Fed. It's so interesting because the Fed has so many problems that XRP and other liquidity tokens, bridge currency solve that are built for interbank payments. And what they're saying is, and people have to catch this when they're reading these documents, what the Fed is saying is very similar to what SWIFT is saying. They're just going to provide like this connector piece for the bank's preferred DLT providers. If that's the case, then what does a new financial system company really have to do to dominate? They just have to collect a bunch of banks and be their preferred DLT provider. What has XRP? What has Ripple done? SBI, etc. They claim they collected a bunch of banks. But I think it'll go a step further, to be quite honest. But let me read this to you. I'm going to read this to you, right? It says here, the Fed's role is generally not anticipated to be running the single monolithic DLT network that commercial banks use for all their activities. So that's not going to happen. I told you. Don't worry. They're going to lay it out a little bit more. So what we're looking at, before I continue, in my humble opinion, is the possibility of absolute domination of Fed connector systems, as well as, and I probably could phrase that much better, but you get what I'm saying, as well as SWIFT. All they're trying to do is stay in the game. That's what it seems like. Let me read this a little bit more to you. It said, and if you like this type of content, hit that like button a few times. Why not? Instead, it says its function will be to provide the trust anchor and final settlement layer, acting as the essential bridge between the decentralized commercial DLTs and the central bank's ledger. Oh, XRP. In my humble opinion, and I know Ripple has the team to do it, they have former U.S. treasurers, people that used to work for them like Barr, now work as a Fed, right? He's a Fed. They have so many different connections for the collection. It's unbelievable. This should be easy. They're in bed with BlackRock. They're on Wall Street. BlackRock's on Wall Street. Vanguard's right there. If they're in bed with BlackRock to the degree that we believe, then they're in bed with Vanguard as well. There's nothing going to stop them. Nothing. It's not a matter of if, it becomes a matter of when. All right. Now, wait. Let me scroll back up because I'm going to give you this information here. Everything's looking good as far as the golden age door creaking a little bit further open. And the setup is absolutely beautiful as of now. If it changes, we're going to have a different discussion. But as of now, things look great, in my humble opinion. Now, it says here for the Fed, and this is coming from the Fed, Federal Reserve Bank of New York. So it says throughout 2025, the New York Fed, in partnership with major U.S. financial institutions, continued to release findings from its, quote, Project Cedar and similar research. The statement is they have repeatedly demonstrated the feasibility of a shared ledger platform using tokenized commercial and central bank liabilities for wholesale payments. Now, there will be a multitude. It's not just XRP is going to be the only winner. I don't think that. But when you're looking at the total value that moves per year, quadrillions. Let's start small, trillions, right? Even that's not small. What does it do if trillions hit the XRP ledger? They're in bed with central banks, according to them. They're in bed with a bunch of commercial banks, according to them. And no doubt about it, I think a lot of NBFIs are coming to the table as well. Traditional NBFIs, facts. Then there's the whole aspect of holding XRP treasuries. That's real now. people are going to be staking XRP. But more than that, I think the banks are going to offer staking for XRP to their customers. There's that. The banks already let us know they're going to go wild with staking. How does all of this affect the XRP price? There's no way but up. No way. But it continues. It says, so they have repeatedly demonstrated the feasibility of a shared ledger platform using tokenized commercial. Okay, we read that little part there. The focus has shifted to achieving atomic settlement, where the transfer of two assets like currency and a security is legally finalized simultaneously on DLT 24/7. And I was saying this the other day in the video from yesterday. I know YouTube's been having some problems. Again, that happens every once in a while. Something happens in the videos. Something will happen with the videos. But if you didn't get a chance to watch the video, go watch that video. Even if you just take the article and, search up the article. I was talking about that 24/7 aspect. They want it badly. And with DLT, they get all the other benefits. They can lower cost. They can eliminate the human element, which is a huge problem. They're doing things in batches. Don't need to do that anymore. Manually. Don't need to do that anymore. There's too many problems with that. They want DLT worse. No, I can't say worse. They desire it more or greater than retail does at this particular time. And that's great if people want to make money. I mean, huge amounts. If there's multiple explosions coming in the future, I believe, like I said, there's 2 or 3, in my humble opinion, the massive ones, the possibility of it, right? Not a guarantee. Possibility, 2 or 3. Interbank payments, boom. We're talking trillions. At some point, quadrillions, if they do their job properly. Looks like they are. RWA, and then one further, we'll discuss at another time. So it says here, so 24/7, activity, it says, which is a key precursor to massive operational efficiency. What does the IMF have to say? Hold on, let me bring this up. All right. So this IMF document says the IMF's recent papers in late 2025 focus on the macro financial implications, of which we went over a bunch of them. Okay, to be fair, we went over a lot of different financial institution documents, and many of them you can find in the members only section. If you haven't, go to look at those posts and you'll see a bunch of financial institutions documents, which are very, very interesting. All right. So let's continue on here. It says they emphasize their focus on the macro financial implications of wholesale CBDCs. It's like people aren't discussing that anymore. That's the huge money. That's the big money. That's consistency. That type of continuity, if you're involved in once more. Ripple says that they have lots of central banks. That's what they say. Could that change? Sure. Could contracts change? Sure. Partnerships change? Maybe. We will see. But we're going by what we know as of now. That will raise that price. There's no way around that. The continuity of what central banks do and how many payments they do per day and how the value of that, especially if you're using something where whatever that mechanism is, they called payment channels. I don't know if they changed it now. That's on the XRPL, where they break up payments and makes it even cheaper. That's what people don't get. There's extra elements of the XRPL that make it even sweeter for banks to use the XRPL, but almost no one talks about that. Those are the things you bring out when you want to close deals. And that's why I believe Ripple has been able to, make it into so many rooms and close so many partnerships, because they know, like, wait a minute, you can make it even cheaper when it's almost, transaction fees are almost nothing. You can make this even faster if we break apart the payments and send them in pieces, but it's still counted as one. They can do all of that. All right. So it continues. They emphasize that central banks are exploring, the IMF, exploring issuing tokenized reserves on DLT infrastructure. What do they all have in common? Ripple has connections. XRP has connections with the Fed. XRP has connections with the US Treasury. XRP has connections with the IMF. At least Ripple does. They have spoken. They've done consulting. They've worked together before. The BIS has connections with XRP as well. XRPL, Ripple. And there's other Bankcoin companies that should be involved as well. You have your Hederas, Chainlinks, Stellars in the game. There's a few of them, right? They're all the bank coins are pretty much doing very well, in my humble opinion. But as far as partnerships and positioning, and it's all about positioning right now, not really on the the aspect of bank coin companies positioning anymore. It's all about the banks positioning themselves, the businesses, large asset managers. Let's continue. So they're talking about tokenized reserves on DLT infrastructure to preserve the role of central bank money in anchoring trust and stability as financial markets adopt the technology. Okay, so that also unveils something else. If they're doing this to preserve the role of central bank money in anchoring trust and stability, if you believe that, then doesn't that mean if they don't do this, they would lose that ability? If they were to lose that ability, who gains that ability to anchor trust and act upon stability? That would be the companies that are controlling the infrastructure. Right? That would be the companies of the new financial system. I told you, they're in a position where they're hovering around this throne. I don't know how far it goes, but could they at some point become powerful entities like the IMF, like the Fed? I'm not saying that they're them. They would be them and in that exact position, but could they become like them? Sure. Why not? The Fed there was no Fed at one time, and then it became such. There was once no IMF with their SDRs and everything like that they created, and people had to go along with it. And now it is so. So there can always be something new to come along the same way that they once did and serve a similar purpose or a parallel purpose. That's definitely possible. One must keep their mind open, but I won't say too open. It's like having a house, right? You don't want to leave your front door wide open, but what I'm saying is you want to be able to conceptualize some of these things that are definitely possible, could be powerful. All right, but they're saying that. There's a reason that they're saying that. Let's continue on. They acknowledge that while DLT offers benefits, centralized. So then they talk about, the combination of the legacy system here. This is what they're going to go into. The legacy system, what they can do versus what DLT can do. And so this is leading the DLT focus shift towards cross-border payments and things like that, cross-border and DVP settlement, which is something we covered before as far as the banks sending money all around the world. This is going to be big. Hence why those corridors, look at where people are doing business. Are they doing business globally? XRPL? Yes, they are. Ripple, SBI, they have corridors everywhere. That's important because that's one of the aspects where the banks have to hand themselves over. All right. So domestic is still a little bit, we still could dominate domestically as far as interbank payments for certain. But as you see with some banks, they don't want to get on board just yet. It's not with DLT. It's with the new standards system because it's just too expensive. They don't like that. And they don't want to really heavily deal with the legacy system, which has held them back, in my humble opinion. They told us that themselves, literally. Like they literally told us in one of the documents that we covered that the fees were just too much. Instituting all this new technology for like ISO and all that stuff like that, they were not happy about that. And SWIFT, as an example, and I'm assuming that the Fed is probably similar with the Fed, demanding of them to do this by certain deadlines. And I'm assuming the Fed is doing the same. The banks did not like that whatsoever. And so hence you see a lot of rebellion. You see this war going on, this divide in the financial system. So then you have articles like this from Trade Financial Global that further clarify what I was saying about SWIFT. They're just making a connector piece. That's all they're doing. And it says this is a little tidbit here, okay? So recent announcements from SWIFT confirms the strategy to incorporate blockchain-based ledger. They're building their thing, but that's just a connector piece, okay? I'm sure it has some capabilities, but it's not meant for that. It's just meant to connect all the DLTs together, sort of like what Chainlink does or Quant. But let me continue reading this here. This is important. It says, and its own capabilities to interlink multiple digital networks. I told you, we're going to dominate SWIFT. Right now, I think they're seeing the future, and the future is saying, listen, all the politicians, not all of it, I mean many, the regulators, the bank heads, they all want DLT, so we're just going to play our part like we always did. Maintain positioning and let the private The private industry do what they do, right? For lack of a better word, which means those multiple DLTs, multiple digital networks, private blockchains, CBDCs, etc., that they're talking about right here. That's the preferred DLTs. Okay, well, if Ripple has, let's say they have hundreds to thousands of banks, then they're going to connect. They're the ones that have the value. They're the ones that move the value. Those banks are not going to be massively, as far as we know now, about preferred DLTs and what they're going to do. And we did go over this. I had screenshots. I had everything from the banks. I'm sure it was in a members only video. And I showed this, that's what they're intending to do. That value stays with them. The liability stays with the banks, hence why they have preferred DLTs, and they're not just trusting their value to this mega system, mega SWIFT system, like they've never done that before, because the liability remains on them. But certain aspects of the information will be sent over the SWIFT network. They're just a connector, is what I'm trying to say. So the new financial system is in the driver's seat. That's what I'm trying to say. Listen, folks, it's looking really good in my humble opinion. It says here, and my apologies if I stammer a little bit today. This is probably my most exhausted I've been in a long time. I did so much running around today and getting stuff done. I'm very happy that I did. I like to say I'm proud of myself that I did. And you should be proud of yourself that you made it through the day also. Although I don't like to use the word pride. I don't like that, but it works. Like, it describes it. I feel good about that. But that's why my mind is like, it's sharp. Right now, I feel very sharp, but it's actually a little tired at the same time. That makes sense, right? It continues. This means SWIFT is working to ensure interoperability. And that's what they said. That's what they said. So, all right. So now let's move on from that. We have good activity. When it comes to XRP, this article, we spoke about the possibility of this the other day. They had said that they might do this, and now they have done it. XRP lending opens on Japanese giant SBI VC tonight. All right, so there you have it. It's happening tonight, folks. By the time you watch this, it will be occurring. SBI VC Trade, a major Japanese cryptocurrency exchange and subsidiary of the financial giant SBI Holdings, is opening a new recruitment round for its Rentcoin, quote unquote, service. The recruitment period begins tonight, December 18, 2025. The exchange supports lending for 34 assets, including XRP as well as Bitcoin. The service, formerly known as a, quote, consumption loan agreement, allows users to lend their cryptocurrency to SBI VC Trade for a fixed period. You lock up your crypto, for instance, XRP, with the exchange for a set time, a week or 28 days. In return, you receive a, quote, usage fee paid in the same cryptocurrency. Unlike stocks with dividends or banks with interest, holding crypto in a wallet usually yields nothing. This service turns idle crypto into an income generating asset. So this is something very, very good for XRP. But once again, I think the big moment for lending and staking happens with the banks. They're on a decline, but they still hold a very powerful position. One, they have a lot of value we can absorb. Two, they play a pivotal role. They do. I'm keeping my eyes open for that activity information on that. All right. So you have this going on now. You have something else here. If this article will pop up, this article is titled, bear with me, I had to scroll back up. I don't know why it does that sometimes. I click into the article and it automatically just shifts me down. I don't know what that's about. Publicly listed Vivo Power sizes Ripple share deal at $900 million in XRP value. So there's a lot of very, very interesting activity happening around XRP. Of course, once again, I like to say, my interest is in the banks. My interest is in interbank payments, RWA. That's the big money. But all of this is very good as well. Vivo Power International, a publicly listed energy and digital asset treasury company, said Wednesday it plans to originate up to $300 million worth of Ripple Labs shares for South Korea-based investment firm Lean Ventures. The share deal will provide, my goodness, I completely misread that. The share deal will provide, under an arrangement, the company says would provide indirect exposure to roughly 450 million XRP tokens, valued at around $900 million at current prices. The arrangement was disclosed on Tuesday, though Vivo Power's latest SEC filing on the same day does not reflect those details, and no new filing has been uploaded to the company's SEC directory at the time of writing. Decrypt has reached out to Vivo Power to comment and will update this article should they respond. Okay, that's good to know. All right, so you have that. There's a lot going on, folks. And then we'll close out here with a little bit of Bitcoin news. The big dog is not asleep. It can bark at any time. All right. And I'm enthusiastic about Bitcoin over the next few years, to be quite honest. But no, I want to say it again. I don't think it's going to last forever. No, they want that Bitcoin. A couple of things that the industry wants, the financial industry. They want that XRP. They've been vocal about that over the years. They want that Bitcoin, and they want what else? What else do they talk about so much? It's ridiculous that it's not more bullish. They want that Solana. You know what's so strange to me is they also have spoken greatly about Chainlink, one, and Chainlink has so much business they're doing. That's number two. And yet still, after all of this time, I've been bullish on Chainlink for what, like 2.5 years now? I've been talking about Chainlink and Solana. They were latecomers to my Bankcoin list, but once they indicated and showed that they're working with banks, yeah, they were on my list. 2.5 years now, I believe. But anyway, I can't believe Chainlink is not more bullish. What? What's going on with that? We'll talk about that another time. Let's get back to this Bitcoin news. Will Bitcoin hit $200,000 in 2026? I mean, that's anybody's guess. Does it have the potentiality to do that? In my humble opinion, yes, I think so. I definitely do. When? I don't know. But I know it's there. It could. But let's read this little tidbit. Did you know that in the past 5 years, Bitcoin has vastly outperformed the S&P 500? Yeah, if you're in crypto, you know that. They don't let you forget, right? It's like article after article after article. People are like, dude, outperformed the S&P. They definitely let you know crypto's victories. There's like these general crypto representatives. They don't just cover like a specific thing. They cover like everything. And I respect that too. I like that. But they definitely let you know that. While the broad index has risen 83% during that time frame, the top cryptocurrency has appreciated by approximately 278% in value. It's unquestionably been the better investment over that stretch. Skipping past the ad, get your money. I'm not mad at that. Yahoo. I don't know. Yahoo needs ads as well. I was just thinking like, wait a minute. This year it had, why was I thinking Yahoo doesn't need ads? Why was I thinking that? I don't know. This year it has continued to reach new highs. Many analysts still expect the digital currency to rise significantly in the future. What? Yes. What? Wait, why would you phrase it like that? It's like they phrased it in a way as though that they're saying they don't believe it's going to go up. There's no way you feel that way, Yahoo. I refuse to believe that. Maybe you're rage baiting a little bit. That's what they call it these days, right? When they try to make somebody upset and get them more engaged it's called rage baiting. You know, like BlackRock is involved. They haven't made the capital that they intend to make with Bitcoin just yet. All the large asset managers are involved. You got banks. They didn't even get involved yet. They're letting it be known. Wasn't there an article that came out the other day where they said, and I'm paraphrasing, okay? Don't quote me on this. But there was an article I believe I saw where they did a poll on U.S. banks, and 60% at the time of that poll, 60% said they're looking to get into Bitcoin. And I wish I had that article right now. I know I have it probably on my phone. But I believe I saw that. If that's true, and look that up, by the way, just in case it is factual, then, and I believe I saw that in an article, then you can have that, right, for future reference. If that happens and they all get into Bitcoin, what does it do to that price? If a multitude of banks get involved with Bitcoin, one, you have all these states getting involved with Bitcoin, then 200,000 is nothing. In my humble opinion, you don't have to agree, not financial advice. By the way, if you haven't already, click that like button. If you haven't already, take those powerful hands. Power is yours. Boom, boom, boom. Hit that like button. I would appreciate it. I say that I ask in humility. But $200,000, it could exceed that. I won't say would, I don't want to be an absolutist, but it could exceed that, in my humble opinion. All right, let's keep going. It says, will 2026 be the year that Bitcoin reaches $200,000 and is now a good time? Now a good time to add the crypto. Yo, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to get people to buy some Bitcoin? I thought, okay, that came out of nowhere. I thought it was just an article giving us information about Bitcoin, but let's read the rest. Bitcoin may be due for a better performance in 2026 simply because while it has hit new highs this year, it hasn't been doing well as of late. As of December 15th, digital currency is down 6%. Since the start of 2025, investors have been growing concerned about the stock market and rising valuations, plus the overall economy, and that has weighed on speculative investments, including Bitcoin. I think it's manipulation, you want to be honest. None of what's happening now is new. We've been through worse times. You want to be quite honest, much worse. I think it's just manipulation. I think they're using what's going on as a facade, as a smokescreen to manipulate the price of things like XRP and Bitcoin so they can get more of it and get in a better position to dominate it. But let's keep going. A year like this isn't typical for Bitcoin, especially when the market is performing well. Exactly. So, there has to be catalysts. Do we just take the superficial, the story that we're being given, or do we look deeper into it? But if we take into consideration what is substantial, the positive catalysts remain so powerful that I don't see how the negative catalyst could keep it down or have brought it down, to be quite honest, but could keep it down other than it's just deliberate selling. Just like every time it goes up, there's this massive selling that brings it down, but deliberate selling and manipulation of Bitcoin. When you're playing a big game like this, you have to expect it to be rigged somehow. Those players at the top do not play fair. But at some point, for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear what is really going on, in my humble opinion, and I mean no disrespect for those who disagree, I think they're going to see something wonderful. Not financial advice. I just do. I feel that way strongly. And that's why they said in one of those recent articles that they saw, who was it? Was it Kathy Wood that said it? I believe it was Kathy Wood. One of these large asset manager representatives said they knew there was a multitude of large companies that were not selling. And actually they were buying little by little. So, make of that what you will. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.